Righto, today we're going to try to record what has never been recorded before, my recording process. It's a basic rundown of how I usually do things. It's not always the same way, but very regularly I would like to start a song with 4 chords, 3 or 4 chords, and I find that makes it an easy glide into making the beat. I also find that if you are only making a beat, then you don't really have a sense of where the rhythm should go or what should happen next, you know, in the drums. I think it's kind of nicer, at least for me, and I have ADHD, it's nicer to hear some progression. 4 bars, 8 bars. 8 bars is the best. And with that progression, go on and say that this should happen next, that should happen next, this should happen next. It helps also your sound selection. If you select the right sound from the beginning, then you can do the right thing. Just want to show you what's going on. So there's an arpeggiator on the Akai, which is my MIDI keyboard of choice, and if I press, or if I turn off the arpeggiator and listen to the which is the screen on the screen, and you listen to the arpeggiator on its own, simple, right? That's what I want, but I also want more breaks in that, so it's just every 16th, and that's not really that interesting. So I put on the arpeggiator that's already on here. You can change the arpeggiator settings, of course, but this is pretty straightforward. So it now sounds like this. Which I think is nicer. And so there's more breaks in the arpeggio, and you'll hear why later. Because, you know, if every 16th is filled with a diggy 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 diggy, there won't be any room for anything else. And that's one of those things that takes years and years and years to learn. Years and years and years and years and years to learn, is to leave a lot of space for everything else. The bass can be dominating, the drums can be dominating, even a synth line can be dominating. So leave gaps. If you have already made the synth line and it sounds pretty cool, you can still chop pieces out of it and then even use those chopped pieces and move them into a different part, or sample short parts of your synth line and double them up, or whatever you want to do, stretch them, pitch them. You can do all those things. So I'm going to start recording. I don't know how long this is going to take to really get somewhere. Making an 8-bar loop is not a song. Making a song is a song, and I can do that in about an hour or so. That might be a bit too long, but let's see. I have sort of a formula now where sort of there's an intro, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, break, verse, oh sorry, chorus again, and then outro. Basically pretty straightforward songwriting. So let's record this. You might not see my hand on here, but you can just assume that's what I'm doing. Actually, I might try to film it. Alright, so I'm recording, I will be recording, and this is going to be the synth line, hopefully 8 bars long. Okay. That's 16 bars, which is quite long. 16 bars is a whole verse or a whole chorus. So I'm just playing it back. Has a little delay in there, it's kind of cool. Alright, so I've made an arpeggiator. I've made an arpeggio, so it basically plays the same thing over and over in a loop. And because it's 80s synthwave, it's allowed to do that. Arpeggios and arpeggiators are basically things that play a chord in a sequence, in a sequence, in a sequence, in a sequence, so you don't have to. And also because a lot of people like me aren't like quote-unquote piano players, quote-unquote real musicians, you know, we have to use these other tricks. We use arpeggios, arpeggiators, we use synth pads that are layered, we do all kinds of things. We use sample chops, we cut and paste, we do everything we can to make a song. And it doesn't really matter what you do to get there, you just got to get to where you want to be. It's best if you can make your own samples, and if you can make your own samples, here's a pretty easy way to go about it. I have nothing on here. Alright, so I'm going to put an instrument here. I'll give you a quick demo on how to make yourself a sample to use for your song. Alright, what do we want? I'm going to throw a Jupiter 8 on here. The Jupiter 8 is going to be playing this sequence that we just did. I'll mute the original, and this is the Jupiter 8 playing the sequence. Some of the sounds on the Jupiter can be very overpowering. So let's hear, this is an ARP playing an ARP. Let's hear what that sounds like. When you play around with the synthesizer on your screen, whichever one you pick or choose, I just like the retro ones, you'll also be able to modulate and change your synth line over time, which gives it a lot more of a spacey quality. So I'm looking at the camera now. Gives it a lot more of a spacey quality, meaning, you know, like there's a journey takes place over your song. So the synth kind of like rides waves of LFOs and other types of filters, so it doesn't sound like the same note or group of notes being played again and again in a sequence, that the actual music itself sort of modulates up or down a little bit so that it always sounds a little different. So by the end of the sequence, it should sound a little different than at the start of the sequence, and that's where I think you get a fair bit of depth into your music, so it doesn't sound so stagnant and straight. These sequences can also kind of move the notes around. If you play around with your envelope, you can the note can kick in slower, or it could go out quicker. You know, you can change the shapes of the notes if you're using all of these features. You don't have to know what everything is, but if you play with it again and again and again, you'll get a much better idea of what you want, and it'll be easier to tune in the thing you're looking for. The reason I like this sort of bass line is because it sounds like a 80s computer game. Do I want that though? I'm not sure. Now it sounds like a computer game. I want it to sound like a bass. Let's stretch it a little. Ooh. Well, let's hear them together. That's very simple. And all I did was I just copied that first arpeggio that I played into the MIDI keyboard, and then I copied it into another channel. And these are all MIDI. If you would like this to be a sample, it's as simple as pressing Control B for bounce. This is when you're using Bitwig. So now I've got this as actual sound waves. Let's have a look. Yes, they're not very big. They're little, tiny little sound waves. But because they're little or whatever, it doesn't matter. Look, I can start cutting and pasting. At the end of the 4, let's cut something here. Double up a note, copy, paste. Okay. And if I go, I sort of like to break it in middle, in pieces in the middle. I don't know why I put it there at the start of the 4. That actually means I have to put it here at the start of the, sorry, at the end of the 2. Alright. You cut and paste however you want. You do whatever you want. You stick things wherever you want. What's this sound like? Alright, see, anyone can do that. It doesn't have to be very technical or whatever. If you want, you could try what happens if I go up an octave with the extra note I added. Maybe you want that glitch. It sounds glitchy now. What about octave down? That sounds kind of cool. We're getting somewhere. If you want to create some sort of bass line, you can really just cut and paste and move things around, duplicate stuff. The octave down sounded good, but only on single notes. So why did I stick it here? I did that wrong. Yeah. Alright, so I was hoping to put it at the end of the bar, but because I have ADHD and I don't pay attention, I put it at the start of this part instead of at the end, but maybe something cool happens. It's still cool. How about then if we sort of go all out? Whoops. Okay, that was an accident. Ah, bugger it. Alright, let's do every bar. Gets one of these double ups. Every bar. And kind of even randomly if you want. The bar and the double up can happen anywhere. All I'm doing is I'm copying, duplicating, so there's another one there. And one more over here. So literally these are the notes that were already here. As you can see above, they're the MIDI notes that go along with it. All I've done, oops, pointer. Duplicate the notes that I can see. Maybe I'll put 3 here, just for fun. And then let's hear this. This one needs another note, so just duplicate that last one. So there's 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, at random times almost. It's not straight up and down. And then I take these longer sections and I pitch the whole thing down, octave, so it becomes a bass line. That's where the dynamics come from. Up and down in octaves. Check it out. Alright, back to where we started. last one was kind of lame. But you get the general idea. Let's join these together and see how they sound together. Alright, so that's the beginnings. The arpeggiator, I would like to do things too. So I'm going to record a little bit of frequency modulation, so it sounds a little bit more retro. Check this out. Now that I've recorded that, it will play that each time with the modifications. Already sounds more dynamic. Sorry. A bass line needs to repeat. I join it all together so it's easier to move around, and the bass line doesn't need to come in straight away. Bass line can come in. Actually, I have the bass line really simple, and then the bass line gets a little more complicated, which is a pretty nice way to do things. You know, so as the song progresses, it starts simple and it introduces elements, and as each element is introduced, those elements get more complex. Duplicate. Okay. 16 bars in, and we don't have a beat. We have the beginnings of something.